Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Terra Nova and watched the massive space station grow larger on the screen. The structure was bigger than any city on Earth. Shining metal towers twisted around each other like giant silver snakes. Lights blinked in patterns he could not understand. This was Nexus Prime, home to the Galactic Council. "First time seeing something like this, Captain," said Amy Collins, the chief diplomat. She wore her best blue uniform and carried a briefcase full of documents about Earth and humanity. "Makes our space stations look like toys," Jake replied. He had been in space for 20 years, but nothing had prepared him for this sight. The communications officer turned around. "Sir, we are getting a message from the station. They want us to dock at Bay 7. Jake nodded. "Take us in slowly. Let's not give them any reason to think we are trouble." The Terra Nova moved through the docking procedures with care. Jake watched alien ships of all shapes and sizes floating near the station. Some looked like crystals. Others were round like bubbles. One ship seemed to be made of living metal that moved and shifted. "Remember," Amy said to the team, "we are here to ask for membership in the council. Be polite. Be respectful. Show them that humans can work with others." Dr. Ben Carter adjusted his glasses and checked his tablet one more time. He was the team's top scientist and had studied every piece of information about alien technology they could find. "The council has 12 member species. Each one is thousands of years more advanced than us. This will not be easy." The docking clamps locked into place with a metal sound that echoed through the ship. Jake took a deep breath. "All right, team. This is it, humanity's first real chance to join the galaxy." They walked through the airlock into a corridor that sparkled with strange light. The walls seemed to be made of some kind of crystal that glowed from within. The air smelled like ozone and something sweet Jake could not identify. A tall, thin alien waited for them. Its skin looked like blue glass, and its eyes were large and silver. When it spoke, the words came from a device on its chest. "Welcome to Nexus Prime. I am Guide Vextel. Follow me to the council chamber." They walked through halls that were both beautiful and strange. Jake saw aliens he had only read about in reports. The aquarium moved on tentacles and left wet trails behind. The Kron looked like walking metal with red eyes. The Zephyrians were made of crystal and light. "Incredible," Ben whispered. "Look at their technology," the walls respond to touch. "The floors clean themselves. They have solved problems we are still working on." The council chamber was a huge round room. 12 seats arranged in a circle, each one designed for a different type of alien body. In the center was a smaller area with chairs for visitors. Elder Kethver of the Zephyrians sat in the tallest chair. Light moved through his crystal body like water. When he spoke, his voice was like music. "Humans of Earth, you come before this council seeking membership. Tell us why you believe your species is ready to join galactic civilization." Amy stepped forward. Her voice was steady and clear. "Honored council members, humanity offers diversity of thought, strong determination, and a desire to learn. We have overcome great challenges on our world. We believe we can contribute to the galaxy." A rumbling sound came from the Kron representative. "Your species is young. You still fight wars among yourselves. You damage your own planet. What can you offer us that we do not already have?" Jake watched Ben's face tighten. He knew the scientist was thinking about all the ways human technology was behind alien science. "We offer a fresh perspective," Ben said. "Sometimes new eyes can see old problems in new ways." Elder Kethver's light dimmed slightly. "There is truth in that. In fact, we have a problem that has challenged this council for many centuries. Perhaps you would like to hear about it." The chamber's walls came alive with images and data. Jake saw complex diagrams and equations that made his head hurt. "This is the Nexus Gate project," Kethver explained. "A transportation system that would allow instant travel between any 2 points in the galaxy. We have worked on this for over 300 years. Every species has tried to solve it. All have failed." The images showed massive construction attempts. Ships the size of moons trying to build structures in space. Each attempt ended in failure: explosions, collapsed frameworks, twisted metal floating in the dark. "The problem is the energy requirements," said the Aquari representative, its tentacles moving as it spoke. "To create a stable wormhole large enough for ships requires more power than most stars produce. The materials needed do not exist in normal space," added the vexed delegate, its insect-like voice clicking. "We would need matter from the hearts of collapsing black holes." Jake looked at his team. Amy's face was calm, but he could see she was thinking hard. Ben's eyes were bright with interest as he studied the data. "This project represents the next step in galactic evolution," Kethver continued. "The first species to solve it will change how we all live and work. But perhaps it is beyond our reach?" The meeting continued for hours. The council asked many questions about Earth's history, technology, and social systems. Jake could see they were not impressed with most of the answers. Finally, Elder Kethver spoke again. "Humans of Earth, you show promise, but you are not ready. For full membership, we grant you observer status. Return in perhaps 500 years. By then, your species may have matured enough to truly contribute." The dismissal was polite but clear. Jake felt a mix of disappointment and anger. 500 years was longer than all of recorded human history. As they prepared to leave, Ben quietly activated his tablet's recording function. The Nexus gate data was still displayed on the chamber walls. "Thank you for your time," Amy said, with dignity. "We hope to prove worthy of your consideration in the future." Back on the Terra Nova, the team sat in silence for a long time. Finally, Ben looked up from his tablet with a strange expression. "Captain, I think I copied their technical specifications." "For what?" Jake asked. "For the Nexus gate, all of it. Every failed attempt, every theory, every equation." Amy leaned forward. "What are you thinking, Ben?" The scientist smiled for the first time since leaving the council chamber. "I'm thinking that sometimes being young and inexperienced might be exactly what you need to solve an old problem." The news reports played on every screen in Dr. Ben Carter's laboratory. Another hurricane had hit the East Coast. Floods covered half of Bangladesh. The temperature in Phoenix had reached 130 degrees for the fifth day in a row. Ben turned off the sound and focused on the data spread across his desk. 3 months had passed since the Terra Nova returned from Nexus Prime. While the world burned outside, he had assembled a secret team to study the alien technology. "The power calculations don't make sense," said Dr. Lisa Rodriguez, looking up from her computer. She was one of the best physicists on Earth, recruited from MIT after Ben showed her just enough alien data to get her interested. Kevin Park, an engineer from South Korea, pointed at a diagram on the wall. "Look at this design. They are trying to force space to bend using pure energy. It's like trying to dig a hole by exploding dynamite." "Maybe that's the only way they know how to think about it," Ben replied. He had been studying the alien designs for weeks. The more he learned, the more convinced he became that the Galactic Council was approaching the problem wrong. Sophie Davis entered the lab carrying coffee and looking tired. She had been working for 18 hours straight on material analysis. "I finished running the simulations on their exotic matter requirements. To build one Nexus gate using their design, we would need to strip mine 3 solar systems." The team worked in a hidden facility beneath the Rocky Mountains. Officially, it was a geological research station. In reality, it housed some of Earth's best minds working on humanity's greatest challenge. Outside, the world was falling apart slowly. Not with wars or explosions, but with the quiet disaster of a planet pushed beyond its limits. Crops failed. Cities flooded. Millions of people packed their belongings and moved inland as the seas rose. Ryan Mitchell, the youngest member of the team, was working on quantum field calculations. He had been a graduate student when Ben recruited him, but his mind worked in ways that impressed even the senior scientists. "Dr. Carter," Ryan said, "what if we're thinking about this backwards?" Ben looked up from his notes. "What do you mean?" "The aliens are trying to create wormholes by brute force. They want to tear holes in space and hold them open with massive amounts of energy. But what if space wants to fold naturally? What if we just need to ask it nicely instead of forcing it? Lisa laughed, but not in a mean way. Ryan, space doesn't have feelings. It's not going to cooperate just because we're polite. But quantum mechanics suggests that reality is more flexible than we think, Ryan continued. What if instead of forcing a wormhole to exist, we create conditions where a wormhole becomes the most likely outcome? Kevin set down his coffee cup. That's actually not crazy. In engineering, the best solutions usually work with natural forces instead of against them. Ben felt something click in his mind. He walked to the whiteboard and started drawing equations. Ryan might be onto something? Look at this. For the next 6 hours, the team worked together on a completely new approach. Instead of the aliens' brute force method, they developed a theory based on quantum field manipulation and molecular engineering. We don't need exotic matter from dying stars, Sophie said excitedly. We can create the necessary properties using common elements arranged in specific patterns. Silicon, iron, carbon, Lisa added, the most abundant materials in the Earth's crust. If we can arrange them at the molecular level using nanotechnology, Kevin was already sketching designs. A gate structure that convinces space to fold instead of forcing it, like a lens that focuses probability instead of light. The breakthrough came at 3 a.m. Ryan was half asleep when he suddenly sat up straight. Resonance, he said. What? Ben asked. Everything in the universe has a resonant frequency. What if space-time itself has a frequency? If we can match it perfectly, we might be able to create a resonance cascade that opens a stable wormhole with minimal energy input. The implications were staggering. If they were right, the Nexus Gate could be built using Earth technology and Earth materials. It would be simpler, cheaper, and more reliable than anything the aliens had attempted, but outside their mountain laboratory, the world continued its slow collapse. News reports showed the latest refugee camps. 20 million people had fled the coasts in the past year. Governments struggled to provide food and shelter. Some countries had simply stopped functioning. We need to test this theory, Ben said. But we'll need help, real help, from people with resources and manufacturing capability. Sophie pulled up a secure communication channel. I have contacts in the tech industry. People who understand that business as usual isn't going to work anymore. Within a week, they had secret backing from tech billionaires, defense contractors, and research institutions. Everyone could see that Earth needed a miracle. The alien technology might be that miracle. The first prototype was built in an abandoned factory in Detroit. It was small, just big enough for a person to walk through. The ring was made of specially arranged carbon nanotubes and silicon crystals. It looked almost simple compared to the massive alien designs. Remember, Lisa said as they prepared for the first test, if this works, we'll be making history. If it doesn't work, we might create a small black hole and destroy Michigan. Kevin checked the power connections one more time. The energy requirements are 1,000 times lower than the alien designs predict. Either we're completely wrong or we're about to revolutionize physics. Ben stood at the control panel with his hand on the activation switch. Outside, another city was flooding. Another 1 million people were packing their cars and heading for higher ground. Humanity was running out of time. If this works, he said quietly, we might be able to save our species. If it doesn't work, we'll have to keep trying until we do. He pressed the switch. The ring hummed softly. The air inside began to shimmer, like heat waves rising from hot pavement. Then suddenly the center of the ring went completely black. Are we getting readings? Ben asked. Sophie watched her instruments with wide eyes. It's stable. The field is holding. According to these sensors, there's a wormhole in that ring. Where does it go? Ryan asked. Ben smiled. Only one way to find out. He picked up a small probe on wheels and pushed it toward the black circle. The probe rolled forward, reached the edge of the darkness, and disappeared. 30 seconds later, Sophie's radio crackled. This is probe 1. I am in what appears to be a cave system. The walls are rock. There is no visible sky. Please advise. Kevin checked the coordinates they had programmed into the system. If this worked correctly, that probe should be in a cave in Arizona, about 800 miles from here. Ben stared at the ring. After 3 months of calculations and theories, they had built a working Nexus gate in an abandoned car factory, using materials that cost less than a new truck. "We did it," he whispered, then louder, "We actually did it." But even as they celebrated, Ben knew this was only the beginning. They had solved the technical problem, but humanity still faced its greatest challenge. Earth was dying, and the Galactic Council had written them off as too primitive to join galactic civilization. Soon, they would have to prove that being young and desperate could be humanity's greatest advantage. The emergency broadcast reached Dr. Ben Carter's team at 3 in the morning. The President of the United States was resigning. The federal government was shutting down all non-essential operations. Within hours, similar announcements came from governments around the world. Ben stood in the control room of their new facility, watching news feeds from every continent. The Australian Prime Minister had fled Canberra as wildfires surrounded the capital. The entire government of the Netherlands had relocated to emergency bunkers as the seawalls finally failed. In Brazil, military commanders announced they were taking control from a civilian government that had simply stopped meeting. "This is it," said Sophie Davis, monitoring communications from around the globe. "Civilization as we know it is ending." Dr. Lisa Rodriguez looked up from her calculations. "Maybe that's not entirely bad. The old system was killing the planet anyway." Kevin Park was working on the latest gate prototype, seemingly unaware of the chaos outside. "Ben, come look at this. I think we can reduce the power requirements even further." Ben walked over to Kevin's workstation, but his mind was elsewhere. 3 weeks ago, they had received intercepted communications from space. The Galactic Council was sending a fleet to Earth. The official message spoke of protective quarantine and preventing the spread of instability. Ryan Mitchell burst into the room carrying a tablet. "I just got word from our contacts at SETI. The alien fleet is huge. 12 ships, each one the size of Manhattan. They'll be here in 2 months. What exactly does protective quarantine mean?" Sophie asked. Ben had been researching Galactic Council procedures. "It means they're going to lock us in our solar system forever. Some kind of energy barrier that prevents faster-than-light travel? They've done it before to species they consider dangerous or unstable." The irony was bitter. Just as humanity was solving the greatest puzzle in galactic history, the galaxy was preparing to shut them out permanently. Lisa stood up and stretched. She had been working for 16 hours straight. "Then we need to finish this project before they arrive. If we can demonstrate working Nexus Gate technology, maybe they'll reconsider. Or maybe they'll be even more afraid of us," Ryan said quietly. Outside their hidden facility in the Canadian Arctic, the world continued its transformation. It wasn't the dramatic collapse people had expected from science fiction movies. There were no nuclear wars or zombie outbreaks. Instead, it was the quiet failure of systems that had grown too complex and fragile to adapt. The cities emptied as people moved inland and upward, away from rising seas and spreading deserts. Supply chains broke down not from attack, but from the simple inability to maintain roads and ports in the face of constant natural disasters. Money became meaningless when there was nothing left to buy, but something new was emerging from the ruins of the old world. Scientists and engineers from around the globe were forming new networks based on cooperation rather than competition. Dr. Carter's project had become the center of the largest scientific collaboration in human history. "We're getting reports from the construction sites," said Sophie, reading messages from their allied teams. "The Australian group has finished the resonance chamber. The team in Kenya has successfully tested the field generators. Even the group in what used to be Miami is making progress despite the flooding." Ben smiled. "Despite everything." As traditional governments collapsed, the scientific community had become humanity's unofficial leadership. They were building something that had never existed before, a truly global civilization united by curiosity, rather than conquest. Kevin held up a small device that looked like a metal flower. "This is it, the breakthrough we needed. Instead of building massive structures like the aliens, we can create portable gate generators, each one no bigger than a briefcase. How is that possible? Lisa asked. By embracing quantum uncertainty. Instead of fighting it, Ryan explained. The aliens try to control every variable. We're letting quantum mechanics do most of the work for us. Ben examined the device. It was beautiful in its simplicity. 6 curved metal petals surrounded a core of synthetic diamond and carbon nanotubes. The entire unit weighed less than 5 pounds. How much power does it need? He asked. About as much as a microwave oven, Kevin replied. We can run it off solar panels or even a car battery. The implications were staggering. While the aliens had been trying to build gates the size of space stations, humans had created technology that could fit in a backpack. A single person could open a wormhole anywhere in the universe. Sophie's radio crackled with an urgent message. Ben, we're getting a transmission from Captain Morrison aboard the Terra Nova. They're requesting permission to dock. Ben was surprised. The Terra Nova was supposed to be in Earth orbit, monitoring the approaching alien fleet. Put him through. Jake Morrison's voice filled the room. Ben, we have a problem. The Council fleet just activated some kind of scanning beam. They're examining every artificial structure in the solar system. I think they're looking for advanced technology. How long before they get here? Ben asked. 6 weeks, maybe less? They're accelerating. Ben looked around the room at his team. Sophie was monitoring construction progress from around the world. Lisa was refining the theoretical framework that made their technology possible. Kevin was building devices that would have seemed like magic to humans just a year ago. Ryan was solving problems that had stumped alien civilizations for centuries. Jake, I need you to do something for me, Ben said. Land the Terra Nova here in the Arctic. We're going to show you something that will change everything. 3 days. Later, Captain Morrison stood in the laboratory staring at the portable gate generator with amazement, and had just demonstrated how it worked by sending a probe to the surface of Mars and bringing it back. This is impossible, Jake said. The aliens told us it couldn't be done. The aliens were wrong, Ben replied. They've been thinking about this problem for so long that they forgot to question their basic assumptions. Sophie handed Jake a technical report. We've tested it hundreds of times. The technology is solid. We can create stable wormholes anywhere in the galaxy using common materials and minimal power. Jake read through the report with growing excitement. Ben, do you realize what this means? We're not just ahead of the aliens on this one project. We've developed a completely different approach to manipulating space-time. I know, Ben said. The question is, what do we do with it? Lisa looked up from her work. We prove them wrong. The Council is coming here to quarantine us because they think we're too primitive and dangerous. Let's show them exactly how advanced we really are. Ryan was already working on calculations. If we can get to their fleet before they activate the quarantine field, we might be able to convince them that humanity deserves a place in galactic civilization. Kevin smiled and held up another device. I've been working on something special. A gate generator powerful enough to reach ships in deep space. If we can't convince them with words, maybe we can surprise them with a demonstration they'll never forget. Ben felt a familiar excitement building in his chest. It was the same feeling he had experienced when they first solved the wormhole equations. The feeling of being on the edge of something that would change everything. Outside, the old world continued to crumble. Inside their laboratory, humanity was preparing to take its first real step toward becoming a galactic civilization. Admiral Zithkar of the Kron stood on the bridge of his flagship and studied the blue-green planet hanging in the darkness ahead. Earth looked peaceful from this distance, but his instruments told a different story. The planet's surface temperature had risen by 3 degrees in the past decade. Ocean levels were rising. Weather patterns showed signs of complete breakdown. Status report, he commanded in his mechanical voice. Commander Velthara, an equerry whose tentacles moved constantly. As she worked, replied without looking up from her station. The quarantine generators are in position, Admiral. We can activate the containment field at your command. What about the humans themselves? Zithkar asked. Curious, said Science Officer Kretak, a Zephyrion whose crystal body flickered with data streams. Instead of the chaos we expected, we detect massive coordinated construction projects across the planet's surface. Energy signatures unlike anything in our databases. Zithkar moved to the science station. The main screen showed energy readings from Earth's surface. Strange patterns of power consumption appeared and disappeared in remote locations around the planet. Could they be building weapons? He asked. Kretak's light patterns shifted to indicate uncertainty. The energy signatures do not match any known weapons technology. The power levels are too low for defensive shields. We are uncertain of their purpose. The Admiral studied the data with growing unease. When the Galactic Council had decided to quarantine humanity, they had expected to find a dying civilization tearing itself apart. Instead, they found evidence of technological development that made no sense. Begin the quarantine procedure, Zithkar ordered. Whatever they are building, we will ensure it stays confined to their solar system. On Earth, Dr. Ben Carter stood in the main laboratory watching the final preparations. Teams around the world had worked for weeks to complete their preparations. Today would determine whether humanity joined the galactic community or remained trapped forever in their own solar system. The alien fleet is in position, reported Sophie Davis from the communications station. They're powering up some kind of massive energy field. Captain Jake Morrison checked his equipment one more time. He would be the first human to attempt contact with the alien fleet using their new technology. The portable gate generator was strapped to his back like a backpack. It looked almost silly compared to the massive alien ships on the screen. Remember, Dr. Lisa Rodriguez said, the mathematical proofs are solid. The technology works. But we'll only get one chance to demonstrate it. Kevin Park was making final adjustments to the gate device. The power core is fully charged. You'll have enough energy for multiple jumps if needed. Ryan Mitchell looked nervous but excited. Captain, when you step through that portal onto the alien ship, you'll be making the greatest diplomatic contact in human history. Jake nodded. He had been in dangerous situations before, but nothing like this. If their plan failed, humanity would be cut off from the stars forever. If it succeeded, they would prove that human ingenuity could solve problems that had stumped the galaxy's greatest minds. Are you sure this will penetrate their shields? Jake asked. Ben smiled confidently. Their shields are designed to stop known technology. Energy weapons, projectiles, even conventional teleportation systems. But our gates don't transport matter through space. They convince space itself to fold. The shields won't even detect. The portal opening. Sophie's instruments began beeping urgently. The alien energy field is activating. Whatever they're doing, it's huge. The energy output is greater than our sun. On the screen, they could see space itself beginning to shimmer around Earth's solar system. The quarantine field was coming online. It's now or never, Ben said. Jake activated the gate generator. The familiar black circle appeared in the air. In front of him, perfectly stable and silent. Through it, he could see the metal corridors of an alien spacecraft. Good luck, Captain, Amy Collins said. She had joined the team after the government collapsed. Bringing her diplomatic experience to their scientific project, Jake stepped through the portal and disappeared. Admiral, Zithkar was reviewing quarantine protocols when alarms began sounding throughout his ship. Red lights flashed as his crew scrambled to understand what was happening. Report, he demanded. Sir, Commander Velthara said, her tentacles writhing with agitation. We have an intruder on Deck 7, human life signs. But that is impossible. Our shields are fully operational. Before Zithkar could respond, the bridge doors opened and 5 humans walked in. The Admiral recognized Captain Morrison from their files, but the others were unknown. How did you get aboard my ship? Zithkar demanded. Jake smiled and gestured to Dr. Carter, who was carrying what looked like a simple metal briefcase. We used this. Ben opened the case to reveal the portable gate generator. Admiral, I believe we need to talk. The Kron leaders. Red eyes focused on the device with interest and suspicion. That is not possible. No known technology can penetrate our defensive systems. Dr. Rodriguez stepped forward. That's because you've never seen technology like this before. We call it a Nexus Gate. The word sent a shock through the alien bridge crew. Kretak's crystal body blazed with sudden light. That is impossible. The Nexus Gate project has defeated every species in the galaxy for centuries. Sophie opened her tablet and began displaying technical specifications. Not anymore, we solved it. Zithkar studied the data with growing amazement. The human design was completely different from anything the Council had attempted. Instead of brute force and exotic materials, it used elegant quantum manipulation and common elements. This cannot be correct, he said. The energy requirements alone ... are less than what you use to power your food replicators, Kevin interrupted. We approached the problem differently. Ryan pulled out a small demonstration model. Would you like to see how it works? Without waiting for permission, he activated the tiny gate. A portal the size of a dinner plate opened in the air. Through it, they could see the surface of Earth's moon. We don't force space to bend, Ryan explained. We ask it to fold naturally. Commander Velthara examined the portal with her instruments. The readings are accurate. This is a stable wormhole requiring minimal energy input. Admiral Zithkar realized that everything had changed. The humans had not only solved the galaxy's greatest technical challenge, they had done it using an approach that no one had considered possible. Why are you showing me this? He asked. Jake's expression became serious. Because you're about to trap humanity in our solar system forever? But we're not the primitive species you think we are. We've solved problems that your entire galactic civilization couldn't handle. Ben added, the quarantine field you're building will become obsolete the moment you activate it. We can bypass any barrier using this technology. Sophie displayed more data on her tablet. We've already established gate networks connecting every continent on Earth. We can create portals to any location in the galaxy. Your containment field might keep our spaceships trapped, but it won't stop us from traveling. Zithkar looked around his bridge at his crew. Every alien face showed the same expression of shock and growing respect. You have changed the fundamental rules of space travel, Kretak said quietly. This technology will revolutionize galactic civilization. That's what we hoped you would say, Amy Collins said, stepping forward in her diplomatic role. The question now is whether the Galactic Council wants to work with us or against us. The Admiral made a decision that would change the course of galactic history. He turned to his communications officer. Send a message to Elder Kethver on Nexus. Prime, tell him the quarantine operation is suspended. Tell him the humans have something we need to see. Elder Kethver stood in the center of the council chamber, his crystal body dim with confusion and disbelief. The report from Admiral Zithkar made no sense. Humans had solved the Nexus Gate problem in less than a year. It was impossible. You're certain of these claims? He asked the Admiral, whose image appeared on the chamber's main screen. Elder, I have seen the technology with my own eyes. The humans materialized on my bridge through a portal that our shields could not detect. Their gate generator is smaller than our food synthesizers, but creates stable wormholes with minimal energy input. The other council members murmured among themselves in dozens of different languages. The Aquari representative, Councillor Mortok, gestured with her tentacles as she spoke. This is clearly some kind of deception. No species advances from primitive chemical rockets to advanced space-time manipulation in a single year. Perhaps we should examine their claims before dismissing them, suggested the vexed delegate, his insectoid voice clicking with interest. Elder Kethver's light patterns shifted to indicate deep thought. Very well. Bring the humans to Nexus Prime. We will evaluate their claims under controlled conditions. 3 days later, Captain Jake Morrison stood once again in the council chamber. This time, he was not alone. Dr. Ben Carter, Dr. Lisa Rodriguez, Sophie Davis, Kevin Park, Ryan Mitchell, and Amy Collins formed a semicircle around the portable gate generator, the 12 species of the Galactic Council watched with varying degrees of skepticism and curiosity. The chamber's walls displayed the technical specifications that had stumped galactic civilization for centuries. "You claim to have solved the Nexus Gate problem," Elder Kethver said. "Demonstrate this technology." Then stepped forward and opened the briefcase containing their latest generator. The device looked almost toy-like compared to the massive alien technologies surrounding them. "Before we begin," Ben said, "I want to explain our approach. Every species in this council has tried to solve this problem using the most advanced materials and techniques available. You focused on exotic matter, zero-point energy, and brute force manipulation of spacetime." Dr. Rodriguez continued the explanation. "We approached it from the opposite direction. Instead of asking what is the most sophisticated solution, we asked what is the simplest solution that could actually work." Kevin activated the device. The familiar black portal opened in the air, perfectly stable and silent. "Impossible," whispered the Kron representative. "The energy readings are minimal." Ryan smiled and stepped through the portal. A moment later, he appeared on the chamber's communication screen, standing on the surface of a distant moon. "I am currently on Kepler 442b, approximately 1,200 light-years from here," Ryan said. The portal remained stable with no exotic matter or massive energy input. The council chamber erupted in discussion. Alien voices mixed together in a dozen languages as the representatives tried to understand what they were seeing. Elder Kethver raised his hand for silence. "How is this possible?" Sophie stepped forward with her tablet displaying quantum field equations. "We realized that space-time wants to fold naturally under certain conditions. Instead of forcing wormholes to exist, we create quantum resonance patterns that make wormholes the most probable outcome." "You are using basic materials," observed the Zephyrian scientist. "Silicon, carbon, iron, these elements are common throughout the galaxy." "That was the point," Ben replied. "The aliens' designs required materials that could only be created in the cores of dying stars. Our design uses nanotechnology to arrange common elements in patterns that produce the necessary quantum effects." Amy Collins moved to the center of the chamber. "Honored council members, this technology represents more than just a transportation breakthrough. It demonstrates a fundamentally different approach to solving complex problems." "Explain, Elder," Kethver commanded. "Human civilization developed under unique pressures," Amy continued. "Our planet is dying. Our resources are limited. We had to learn to innovate quickly using whatever materials we could find. This forced us to think creatively, rather than rely on brute force solutions." Dr. Rodriguez added, "While you were trying to power your way through the problem, we learned to work with the natural properties of quantum mechanics. Our desperation became our advantage." The Aquarii counselor's tentacles writhed with agitation. "Even if your technology works, what guarantee do we have that humanity will use it responsibly? Your species has a history of conflict and environmental destruction." Jake stepped forward. "Counselor, that history is exactly why we developed this technology. Earth is dying because we made mistakes. We can't afford to repeat them on a galactic scale." Kevin pulled out another device, slightly larger than the gate generator. "This is a manufacturing unit based on the same principles. It can create any material or structure by manipulating matter at the quantum level. Clean energy, perfect recycling, molecular construction. We're already using it to repair the damage to our planet." The chamber's walls came alive with images from Earth, where once there had been polluted cities and dead oceans. Now there were green forests and clean rivers. The transformation was dramatic and undeniable. "Impossible," the Kron representative. "Sod, planetary restoration takes centuries, even with advanced technology." "Not if you approach it correctly," Sophie explained. "Instead of fighting natural processes, we learned to accelerate them. Instead of replacing damaged ecosystems, we gave them the tools to heal themselves." Ryan returned through the portal and closed it with a simple gesture. "The same principle applies to everything we do. Work with natural forces instead of against them. Find elegant solutions instead of complex ones." Elder Kethver's crystal body began to glow brighter as he processed the implications. You are suggesting that your species' technological development follows a completely different path from our own. Not just technological, Ben said. Social, political, and philosophical development as well. When our governments collapsed, we didn't descend into chaos. We formed new organizations based on cooperation and shared knowledge, Amy gestured to the human team. Every person here represents a different nation and culture from Earth, yet we work together seamlessly because we share common goals. Survival taught us that diversity of thought is more valuable than uniformity of opinion. The vexed delegate clicked its mandibles thoughtfully. This integration of different perspectives is unusual. Most species achieve unity through conformity. That might be why you couldn't solve the Nexus Gate problem, Lisa suggested. You all thought about it the same way because you all came from advanced civilizations with similar technological foundations. Sometimes you need fresh eyes to see old problems differently. Dr. Carter walked to the center of the chamber. Honored council members, we're not asking you to change your entire approach to technology and society. We're offering to share what we've learned. Our gate technology can benefit every species here. But more than that, Jake added, we're offering a new perspective on problem solving. When the next impossible challenge faces galactic civilization, wouldn't you want creative minds working on it alongside traditional approaches? Elder Kethver conferred quietly with the other council members. The discussion continued for several minutes in various alien languages. Finally, he turned back to the humans. Dr. Carter, your species has accomplished something remarkable. Not only have you solved our greatest technical challenge, but you have done so using principles that challenge our fundamental assumptions about technology and society. The elder's light grew brighter as he continued. However, this raises new questions. If humanity can advance so rapidly under pressure, what might you accomplish with unlimited resources and galactic knowledge? The same thing we've always accomplished, Amy replied. We'll solve problems, explore new frontiers, and try to build a better future for everyone. Sophie stepped forward. With respect, Elder, we're not asking for unlimited resources. We're offering to share unlimited resources. Our manufacturing technology can provide abundance for every species in the galaxy. Kevin demonstrated by creating a perfect crystal sculpture from thin air, the molecules assembling themselves according to his quantum field instructions. Scarcity economics become obsolete when you can create anything from basic elements, he explained. War becomes pointless when every planet can have everything it needs. The council members exchanged glances that conveyed volumes of unspoken communication. The Zephyrian scientist finally spoke. Elder Kethver, if the human claims are accurate, we are witnessing the most significant technological advancement in galactic history. More than that, added the Kron representative, we are seeing a new model for civilization development. One that might solve problems we didn't even know we had. Elder Kethver stood silent for a long moment, his crystal form cycling through different colors as he weighed the decision. When he finally spoke, his voice carried the weight of history.